everybody, welcome to Games for Gamers. I'm your host, Arthas the Cat, filling in today for Napalm Dawn, who is currently on vacation, and I'm going to answer the question, should I buy the Small Hadron Collider? I have to abuse my cat every now and then. So, yes, that's exactly what we're going to take a look at today. And the background soundtrack is brought to you by the StarCraft II Heart of the Swarm OST. So we have the Moon's Eye still on sale all the way to the 20th. But we also have the SHC, as it's called, the Small Hadron Collider. It is up on sale, and if I remember correctly, it formerly came with a gold sale. I don't think it was ever sold individually. I'm pretty sure it was a bonus for a gold sale. So I have one equipped. I'm going to show you one of them here, and then we'll take it out into some combat, tell you what it's like, and answer the question, is it worth the purchase? So it is a multifunction item. The first item, and perhaps one of the best, has some good synergy with Snappy Service. This buff can become a quick action if you happen to have the Snappy Service ISO. It's also tech, so it can be locked out if you've been mysticked or skepticked or locked out in some way of tech. Basically, it is a stacking bonus similar to SMITR, what I like to call smartest man in the room. The first time you use it, everybody gets super symmetry. Attacks always hit and ignore most avoidance effects. You use it again the next round, because it has a 1-round cooldown, so you can't spam it. You can't hyper-accelerate this. Analysis, plank particles. Attacks ignore most avoidance effects. They always critically hit. And then they still have the previous hit and ignore most avoidance effects. Finally, in the third round, analysis, another dimension. Another dimension, another dimension. Sorry, Beastie Boys. Attacks ignore most avoidance effects. We still have that. Attacks always critically hit. Now they ignore defense, and you still have all of the previous bonuses. So finally, in round 3, you have the fact that they ignore most avoidance effects. They always critically hit, and they ignore defense. The second function is Cosmic Singularity. It exploits magnetism. Everybody gets downgraded. Everybody gets reverse polarity. Everybody gets fried circuits. Kind of interesting now. We'll come back to this one. Then we have Supershear Earthquake. This is the one that everybody probably likes the most. Foreshock and Aftershock. Ground attacks against this target, all of them, deal extra damage. Deals ground damage to affected character's team before the next action. Removed after Aftershock is triggered. So, it's not something that stays. Basically, you use this, say you have Null and Kurth on the enemy team. You use this, Null goes to have his turn, he takes Aftershock, and then it disappears until it's refreshed. So if he was to gain an extra turn, say Kurth used melee, his tag team bonus activated, he's not going to take Aftershock again. Demon-sial Rift. Everybody gets Sin, and everybody gets Soulfire. Soulfire, as we know, removes buffs, and it is Ethereal Strike, ignores avoidance effects and incorporeal effects. There is a problem with this final item. Notice the type is tech, melee, and slashing. What that means is that it can be tanked by somebody who tanks things, like an enemy agent running the bruiser suit. This song... Wait a minute, really? Huh, what song is this? Because I've heard this so many times. Hold on a second here. 832, Heart of the Swarm. Interesting. Oh, I know where I've heard it from. Heroes of the Storm videos. Okay, that makes sense. So, alright. This will also cause the Elite ISO, the Bruiser ISO to proc because it is melee. So that one is a little bit dangerous. This is tech ranged, ground, and sonic, and this is tech ranged and energy. So let's go ahead and try to build a team around the Small Hadron Collider. And we'll take a look at it. Excuse me, I had a sneeze. So, the first thing that we will do is we will work around everybody's favorite little chick du jour, Amazing Spider-Woman or Mayday Parker. First, I gotta check something real quick. I had another... Alright. For 2 days in a row now, I have had 2 combat exceptions going into PvP. What that means is you get done with the match, and it says you've had a CVE, you need to refresh. Usually, that's a loss. It may not be a loss until up to maybe 5 or 10 minutes later, but you eventually get that offense considered a loss. Well, as it turns out, over the last 2 days, it hasn't happened. The match was negated. Both of those were wins for me, actually, but the match was simply thrown out, like it never existed. Very, very strange. So here we have a team that I was using for the daily, Hyperion and Carolina Dean. These two actually really have a lot of synergy together. The reason being is that one of Hyperion's attacks is energy, and it feeds Carolina, plus Carolina gives him a nice shield. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and abort Mayday over here. We will swap out Hyperion for Mayday. We'll take Carolina and pick up everybody's favorite magnetized lover. Now, Victor would probably be the best for this, but I'm going to change it up a little bit and go for classic magnetism, and obviously, you all know what we're going there. So I'm going to go for Magneto. So the tech buff part of this really has synergy with everybody. I mean, everybody can benefit from that particular item. This one, we're going to focus on Cosmic Singularity. Yeah, alright, so we'll go with the existing gear that I have. And then we'll focus on the other 2 items, which will be the Demon-sial Rift, and we will focus on the ground one. So it looks like I don't have snappy service on Magneto, but that's okay. Yeah, we gain a nice tactical bonus. And because he's magnetized, Magneto went ahead and pre-fired. So, we will use the microanalysis as a quick action buff, thanks to snappy service. And now if we look at my agent, I have analysis supersymmetry. Attacks always hit and they ignore most avoidance effects. And the next thing we will do is go with Cosmic Singularity, which is going to get the Infiltrator pissed off at us, but we have the Mystic Shroud, so it's okay. Over here, we will go with the Magnetic Maneuver Quick Action. By the way, if you run into Spider Chicks in PvP, this is an exhaustible move. Since this was a quick action and not a free action, this does really help decelerate her tremendously. It's this repelled uppercut that is doing the huge amounts of damage. Now, she gains an extra turn, and we know, thanks to impact webbing over here, it spreads. So, right immediately, since everybody is magnetized, and everybody probably has some webbing, This is going to do... yeah. Pretty good amount of damage there. And she gains an extra turn again. Well, may as well just web again. So if I use this again as a quick action, because it is now the next round. Now we look at Amazing Spider-Woman, and she is up to Plank Particles. Attacks ignore most avoidance effects, and they always critically hit. So we will have Spider-Girl go ahead and do the finisher here. And we'll see what kind of numbers she puts up. And we'll just pause on my agent, and let's try to hit this guy. Look at that. 6, 6, 5, 5. I mean, huge amounts of damage. And she's not even ISO'd. And the thing is, she also sets up Magneto. Also, if she went before Magneto, she puts out the magnetized on everybody that Magneto turns around and exploits it. See, if we look at that, Graviton Well exploits magnetism. Heavy Metal has got to be one of the hardest hitting stuns in the entire game. Wow, she gained her passive. That's something you don't see too often. See, how much webbing does he have? He's got 1. Less damage because of the lack of webbing, but as you can see, it was still pretty solid. So there's one team up you could do. You could also pull Victor into this. And you notice they actually have this new magnetic synergy. Specifically, Magneto and Amazing Spider-Woman. So we will change things up a little bit. We'll go ahead and get Quake. We'll get our boy Avalanche, which is actually going to be good for this team because we can generalize them. Now, one of the things, if you were to do a team like this, there is a item that is no longer available. It's from a Spec Ops. It's called the Pneumatic Sledge. It is one of the few sonic and or ground items that is available to the agent. There is not really a lot of ground items that the agent can use. So first we are going to generalize everybody on the enemy side. And I'm going to go ahead and pick on the Thrall over there. For my team, we're going to use microanalysis as a quick action. And then we will go ahead and use the Supershear Earthquake. Every now and then, it really shakes the screen super big. I'm not too sure what causes that, but it's big. And as you can see, I have just stunned the entire enemy team. On Quake's turn, we're going to use the Mega Thrust Earthquake. And you can see how much is going out with the sky is falling. This is actually a PvP-worthy team right now because Generalized is absolutely huge. The reason why Generalized is huge is when you have people going around and activating their class abilities at level 15 as a free action, generalizing them helps tremendously because an infiltrator with the covert ISO pre-firing attacks can be absolutely deadly. One of the worst cases, and I've spoken about this on my stream on Twitch quite often, has been Emma Frost pre-using Psychic Tap, which basically means the psychic tap is unavoidable. Unless you have like haste immunity or mental immunities, you're not going to avoid the psychic tap, because just like those mental dinos, it happens as you're doing the attack. So you're starting to do the attack, you take the psychic tap, you finish the attack, and you take huge damage. I actually, on my stream earlier today, took a 20k pre-fired psychic tap. I mean, you should have seen the look on my face. I could not believe I had taken that much damage. I mean, it was such a ridiculous amount of damage that I took. I just couldn't believe it. So now we will go ahead and make use of the final item. And we will use the Sin. Now, I do believe there is actually a weapon that exploits soulfire. It may be the demonic dagger. Let me see if I can find something. I know I do have something that exploits soulfire. It's either one of the staves or it's that demonic dagger. Let's try and look for a demon. Yep, there it is. The Molten Demonic Dagger, and the Demonic Dagger exploits Soulfire, and it also puts out Soulfire, and actually it exploits Protection, which is pretty good for that dude in the middle. But because we have a Protecting Criminal Thrall, halt, you rebel scum, this could be good, because this may show off what could happen if you tried to use the Demon-sial Rift and there is a Protector out on the field. So Satanic goes first, so I'll just go ahead and AoE before Combat Reflexes is up. And you'll notice her buffs or debuffs did not stick, and that is because of the Mystic Shroud. There's Sweet Nothing, which causes a distraction on the way in. However, it didn't work. Let's see what this one does. And once again, it didn't work. So that Sweet Nothings is a chance to preemptively apply Distracted when an enemy attacks. So the first thing we will do is use Microanalysis as a quick action. And now I will use the Demon-sial Rift. The Bruiser didn't tank it. But you would think that that item is a summon, but as you can see from these counters, it is definitely not a summon. We'll have Satana go next. And now, on the enemy side, they have 4 times Sin. So if we look over here, he could gain Burnout, which says, gains vengeance equal to the number of Sin effects on all enemies. Or, one enemy can have the Sin consumed through inner reflection. We will try that on this Infiltrator. So he had 3. And you can see that's a pretty good hit, and then there is the follow-up because of the Scrapper bonus. We will once again buff ourselves as a quick action, and this time we will go ahead and use the Molten Demonic Dagger. That's actually a pretty solid number for that dagger. So that was a Brutal Strike, which also heals her. And now, she actually has some demon summons herself. What is she short? She's short the first one. So there goes the Sweet Nothings. That time it works. He missed. And now if we take a look, we're up to Planck particles. So this is the final one over here. This is the final level of micro-analysis. So you will see that attacks ignore most avoidance effects. They always critically hit and they always ignore defense. We will use the Demon-sial Rift. By the way, that buff is non-removable. It is a bordered blue buff, so all the work you do with it can never be taken away. God, look at all the buffs to her demons over here. So I could raise health. I can do that. Or this one. This is the one that typically does the most damage. Which, ironically enough, is the one that looks like the Demon-sial Rift. And you can see the damage it does there. So, the Small Hadron Collider. Is it worth a purchase? Well, it's a bit of a long game item. If you think you can eventually get up to the third buff, it's very, very good. If you have a tactician suit with snappy service, you immediately increase the rate of return on this item. You make it a much better item if you're willing to go that route. If you are not willing to go snappy tactical, then I think the item is not maybe quite as good as it will be for others. Avalanche and Quake with the middle item on this is phenomenal, and it is very useful in PvP. Bringing Avalanche to the field with an AoE quick action generalized that can stop the infiltrators, can stop the blasters primed and ready, and maybe critically hit. Okay, guess we got that bug where snappy tactical hadn't kicked in yet. It really does a good. That is a good combination, because you know, Quake may have some issues with some infiltrators being out there, but Avalanche will eat them up. Avalanche will eat up bruisers like your Null and Kurth kind of teams and everything like that. So that one definitely has some PvP worthy items. The Demon-sial Rift with the soulfire and everything like that is a little harder to pull off and a little risky, because it will get tanked by protectors. It will get, if it does hit people who are running the T-Bolt glove or the elite ISO, it will cause a problem. It will cause a drain on the agent. As you can see, you think it's a summon action, but it is definitely not. So it can provoke counters and class benefits and everything like that. So the two best ways you could use it: bring it into combat with snappy tactical and get your team super buffed for tons of damage. Or use the ground earthquake part of it with people like Avalanche and Quake. That is really, really, really big when you use it with them, and it definitely has PvP ramifications for it. The soulfire one, not too much. The magnetic one would be phenomenal with people like Magneto and Victor and Amazing Spiderwoman, who is turning into the blaster darling of the day. Lots of people are using it. Can you pull it off on defense? Little risky. I don't think you can ensure that the agent will properly use the magnetized one on defense, but it is good for offense. So there you have it. There is my opinion on the Small Hadron Collider. I would rank it about a 4 out of 5 in terms of purchase, but it could certainly rank up to a 5 depending upon your setup and how you plan on using it. If you don't have any of the characters we talked about, it probably drops to about as low as a 3, maybe a high 2. If you're running snappy tactical, it's okay. It's middle of the pack. But you really have to pair it with certain people. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video.